Chiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Driveclub, a PlayStation 4 exclusive. Driveclub was developed by Evolution Studios, the same studio behind the pretty successful MotorStorm series on PS3, as well as a World Rally Championship series on PlayStation 2, only the first of which made it to North American shores. Apparently, the studio closed sometime in early 2016. Driveclub falls into what I would call the racing simulation genre, featuring a garage to store cars from real manufacturers, and a series of events that can be chosen through menus, similar to that of Gran Turismo. Driveclub has a very rough release history, first revealed to the public during the very first PlayStation 4 press conference in early 2013, where it was announced that it would be a free game at launch for PlayStation Plus members. It ended up getting delayed several times before finally coming out with pretty poor online connectivity in October of 2014. What was supposed to be the first paid DLC was released for free as an apology for the issues. The game went through a few significant patches over the next couple years, including dynamic weather, a few new free tracks, and quite a bit of other paid DLC, including Driveclub Bikes, a separate set of events, and multiple bikes to add to your garage, with even more of those to purchase. After loading the game for the first time and playing through an introductory tour event, you can begin playing in any of the game's modes. The campaign portion of the game is called Tour. You unlock new events by reaching counts of stars, either silver for easy mode or gold for standard. Each tier of events ends with a multi-event championship series that must be completed in at least third place to move on. You accumulate stars by completing specific criteria in each event. The most common, for example, is placing in the top 3 for races, achieving lap times and time trials, and hitting specific scores in drift trials. In addition, you'll often find subtasks, reaching a max speed goal, or getting certain goals through the game's challenge sectors. These are marked areas where an average speed must be maintained, a specific line should be followed, or a drift score reached. Stars can be met across multiple playthroughs of an event, and any event can be replayed at any time. In multi-event series, you can even restart whichever one you're on without having to redo the entire championship because you feel like you're not going to get all the stars when you're finishing up Event 3. The tour currently shows there are 1,089 stars to be obtained, but the main retail version of the game offers just 225, with nearly 5 times that on offer via paid DLC. Most packages that contributed to that appeared to be around the $6 to $7 mark. In single player mode, you can also choose to just take on a single or random event as well, if you just want a quick race. While you're working on those stars, but not just limited to tour mode, every event in which you partake will earn you fame. Think of fame as experience points, gained for passing rivals, driving in style, and completing challenge sectors. Fame is your key to unlocking new cars and paint jobs, as well as leveling up your Driveclub. Any player can start a Driveclub, and I believe this was the main focus of the game's creation, attempting to make a social network within a racing game. You can invite friends to join this club, customize your logo, and level up the club together using that fame, which further unlocks customizable assets. The one piece that's missing to me is the ability to play some type of tour mode with your Driveclub. Having people all contribute points can be fun, but they build a lot of the framework here for cooperative play without going for the obvious multiplayer campaign. There is quite a selection of cars to choose from, and the car models themselves have an extremely high polygon count. As you begin an event, you're given a skippable cutscene of your driver entering the car, and the amount of detail put into the textures and unique steering wheels and gauges is just really impressive. There were a few events where I'm not sure if it's the lighting or what, but the fidelity of the models did seem a little bit reduced. The vehicles do take damage as you plow walls and rivals, although it doesn't seem to affect their performance in any way, and the cars are restored by the next race at no cost. Now, I'm personally not really into cars as a hobby or anything, so not having all the usual fine-tuning customization was okay by me, but I know a lot of people play the simulation racers for these reasons. When entering an event, I often just watch the 4 stats of the cars go up and down until I see by eye the one that looks best to me. The stats are acceleration, top speed, handling, and drifting. Several paint jobs are available for most vehicles, and you can change it with the press of a button for each event, which is actually kind of handy having that at an event level instead of at a garage level. Tour events often have a restricted few vehicles to choose from, and even fewer if you haven't unlocked a vehicle yet or don't want to invest real money. A filter to remove real money option cars for those of us who won't ever buy them would always be appreciated by the player, but that's not found here. Relating overall car handling in words can always be a bit of a difficult task. Only playing a racing game once or twice a year, the ability to make the comparisons is also pretty limited. I will say it was a bit of a shock to me discovering that braking assist defaults on, which also made me nervous about the game itself. I mean, this was on standard mode, not easy. Was this going to be so difficult to control that one of the 2 buttons I press in this game is partially controlled by AI for me? I mean, it's easy to turn off and wasn't necessary to my relief. Drifting a car in Driveclub does take a bit more than other racers I've played, as you seem to have to fully get the back end of your car to break loose in order to start racking up score. Driveclub is also the first racing game I've seen to penalize you so hard score-wise for collisions, both with the track and other drivers. so loose on the car collision that racers coming from behind to pass you will hit you, and that actually counts against you. If you try and cut a corner or slide into a rival really hard to help you stop and overtake them on a corner, it really penalizes you by reducing your speed and acceleration for time relative to how much track you gained. There are multiple tracks across 6 different countries in the base game: Norway, Canada, Scotland, India, Japan, and Chile. Tracks are nicely diversified in shape and challenge, while the environments themselves sometimes come off a bit bland. Looks a bit like the same assets are applied so many times close together in clumps, most notably in the panning shots before an event begins. Probably would have been best to just skip those. The game says there's a weather system in day and night, which is true, but it is a planned time occurrence for at least the tour races. Redoing the same event would see the sun coming up or setting at the same point in the race each time. Now, the top tier of cars are the hyperclass. Reaching those events in the tour was probably my least favorite in the game, which should have been the opposite. I mean, this isn't my favorite genre, but I'd consider myself far from casual, and I had a great deal of problems trying to maneuver these events in top places consistently. It could be realistic for all I know. I don't often get the chance to drive supercars at 160 miles an hour. And this is far from a complaint, just a public service announcement out there for those interested in this game. Really would have liked to hear more of the game's score, as it was written by and performed by a Welsh electronic band named Hybrid. Didn't see an option to turn it on during events, but as a trade-off for once in a racing game, I've really listened to the sounds of the engines. You can switch your views to 6 different positions while driving, and even with a quick shift to look behind from outside the car, the engine noise changes. Cars sound vastly different between models and makers too, which makes me wonder the amount of resources they spent recording them all. Now, as usual, I don't usually dabble much with the online multiplayer, but I did so just to kind of see how things would work. The setup is very accessible, with a scheduler showing you countdowns of when races begin and what type they are. Unfortunately, the first race I got in, someone was cheating somehow by becoming a ghost car, and it seemed to navigate them perfectly while making them literally untouchable. The second race I picked up on the others' driving habits, which looked like they'd just switched from Mario Kart and attempting to run each other off the road non-stop. The other thing I noticed was the car selections for these races. Your fame level goes between solo and multiplayer, so when you start an event, you may have a top tier car that's currently inaccessible. Which, that's fine, go in and play the game to get your fame up. Sometimes though, the topped out cars were purchasable DLC, and through the course of the race, you feel it as people go whizzing by. Now it's going to of course depend on your viewpoint on this, but you can get the base game free. And in doing so, choosing what you actually pay for can be an attractive option. Now, it was a little difficult to tell which cars could be used where, and you may just be waiting longer for an event in multiplayer if you're trying to hit ones where they involve the class and style of ones you've purchased, so mileage may vary. We'll say the retail disc, it took nearly 2 hours to install the game, which is miles beyond any other game I could think of in recent history. This makes me suspect that they're making you grab all assets up front regardless of whether or not you've purchased, as the entirety of the game with as much content as there is, that's a believable install time. If you like to try out various racing franchises though, Driveclub has a tour mode with dozens of events and 5 times that many locked behind paywalls, a motorcycle drive club, a huge initial install time, several vehicle choices that unlock from point accumulation with well-made models inside and out, a robust multiplayer event selection with some unsavory types hanging about, per usual, criteria for events that invite replay value for completionists, a club to enhance its social aspects, lacking true cooperative campaign play, some well-designed tracks with some slightly generic-feeling sightseeing, great diverse engine noises, and an unconfirmed, potentially great electronic soundtrack. Rated as a racing simulation game, Driveclub lands at a 66 out of 100, with 50 being an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. As always, feel free to press that subscribe button for notifications of new videos, or follow me on Twitter @Umbra Games.